You're listening to the Warlord Radio Podcast. Welcome to the Warlord Radio Podcast, the most follically challenged podcast on the internet.
Greetings.
With me always is Craig Meinhardt, and I am your humble host, Carrick Coleman.
And shout out to Jason over there twiddling the knobs.
Sound wizard Jason for fiddling with the knobs. Today we've got a very special guest. He's a bit of a legend locally, I suppose. He is definitely in the crosshairs of the Denton Police Department. Brett, am I being charged Coleman, also known as Bone Doggie, also known as my dad.
Wow. Hi, Dad.
And Ken, and I don't know your fucking last name. I'm a dickhead.
He's like Elvis. He only has the first
it's
name.
just Ken.
Just Ken. Well, only one. No, Ken Weiner.
Ken Weiner. And they are two cast members of a show that I am semi a part of, I guess, when they let me be, Radio Free Denton. Thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah, greetings. Thanks so much,
thanks for having
guys.
us. It's great.
Yeah, it's
for
great.
having us. And thank you so much, my son, for telling everybody my real name. Thank you so much.
Nobody knew until now.
I didn't know that shit.
I thought it was officially Bone Doggie.
It
on
is
your
Bone Doggie.
license, yeah.
I had it changed after the terrible cloning accident back in several years ago. So.
Well, you had to change. The other guy didn't.
No. We don't talk about him.
That's a terrifying thought that there's more than one of you running around out there.
Seriously, does he shred too?
One sheds, the other shreds.
So how are you guys doing? Thank you for coming on. We had a little bit of a mishap last week. Had to do a little bit of rescheduling, but we were glad we could get you guys on.
We are here.
Yeah, we're here.
Something
We're here.
happened, right?
So you're technically here promoting Radio Free Denton. We'll talk about a bunch of other
That's
shit. But
right.
do you want to tell people what Radio Free Denton is?
Radio Free Denton is basically what it is. It's a comedy skit show based off of like the National Lampoon Radio Hour or the old Bob and Ray national public radio shows. I've always dearly loved old-time radio and skit radio. I got into it very, very early age. My father turned me on to it, and just kind of carried on. I got a chance to do it back when we concocted DentonRadio.com.
Yes,
Way back in the day.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, that's been several years. It's been like 8 or 9 years now, and at the beginning of DentonRadio.com, which was a online radio station that at the time did nothing but Denton music. And the guy that approached me about it said, I've talked to everybody about this idea, and they all think it's crazy. You can't support a radio station online that plays nothing but Denton music. And I looked at him and I said, well, why not? And okay, so we went to look, and we were actually talking about FM.
Yeah.
At the time. We were talking about FM and found out that towers are really bloody expensive.
Yeah.
A couple $1 million.
You can't just give everyone FM radio frequency, all right? There's Alex Joneses out there talking about gay frogs. You can't have that on the radio.
Well, I'll tell you what, B-Lo doesn't like it either. So,
Well, and
I think the
not only
FCC has something to say about it too.
you were prescient. You made the good call because, FM radio is like beyond dead.
Dying.
And the internet, your stuff is out there for the whole world to hear.
T-Bone and the Booger.
Not to mention the fact that when we had the conversation, we had $10 in our pocket collectively.
Right.
And the next day, Jake goes out. Jake Laughlin, shout out to Jake Laughlin.
Shout out to Jake Laughlin.
Jake goes out and gets a player, and we were on the air in a week.
Yeah, it was real quick.
It was
because I remember him because I wasn't at the meeting because I think the meeting was just you two standing outside an open mic somewhere.
No, it was in the studio at the house. It was my
Maybe that's what it was. But
design
I remember
studio,
being there and I was like, oh, that's a cool idea. And then
Yeah.
I saw stickers and shit a week later. I was like, what happened?
We spent our $10. Is what we did.
Did I lose some time somewhere because we went from nothing to radio?
Well, it did take everybody, all of our friends that were playing the open mics. And that's one thing that has really propelled a lot of this is the fact that I've hosted open mics. It's where I met Ken.
Yeah, well, for those of you that don't know, Doggie is kind of a legendary open mic host around here. He is almost everywhere that there is an open mic, he hosted it at some point, and then he kind of
Or
brought...
it's one of my kids.
Or it's one of the kids that you brought up. But, I mean, one thing you always did through that open mic was take new guys and hook them up with each other.
Yes.
So that they could play around and you were really good at, especially for that singer-songwriter scene.
Yeah.
You were really instrumental in like getting those
yeah.
kids going and shit.
They'd meet, they'd get together, they'd form a band, and then they'd have horrible, nasty breakups.
Why can't you do that shit for the metal scene, man? Come on.
Because it's open mic singer-songwriter crap, and you know that.
You have been very instrumental in this town for over a decade.
Well, about 12, 13 years.
Yeah, and
Active.
but there are so many bands in this town that are like staple bands around here that you essentially introduced to each other.
There's a couple that are still around.
Yeah.
Levi Cobb and the Big Smoke, and there's a lot of musicians here in town. Matt Grigsby and Ellie Meyer. A lot of people that we all started at the same time back in the day,
Right?
And they're still out there doing stuff, playing, and.
So where have you done the open mic at?
I started at a little place called Banter, which is now a restaurant.
But when we were there when you started, it was still the Brick House.
It was
right?
the Brick House.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you remember this. When I started actually doing open mics, I started at the Brick House. I'd played bass guitar for 1,000 years before, and
It's actually a bitch barrel of a bass guitar player.
greatest instrument ever. But New Year's Eve, comfortably numb, blown 15-inch speaker, pain threshold, wanted to do something different, and so I found an Irish bouzouki. And I started playing solo, and I started doing. That's when I discovered that open mics actually existed, and it was this little place called the Brick House, and so I became a regular there. And I remember, I think you were with me.
Yeah, I played a lot with you in those early days.
The last open mic at the Brick House, we were all going to go up there because we knew it was going to close down, and we got there and the doors were closed. So we did the last open mic. Do you remember
on the
this?
fucking
on
sidewalk,
the sidewalk in
Nice.
front of the Brick House. Somebody had a cooler full of beer.
Yeah,
What
it was
the
a party,
hell?
man.
Hey.
We just partied on the sidewalk and
We
played. It was
did,
great.
and
It was
and
fun.
That is
so
awesome. I wish I'd have seen that.
And then about two months later, we started getting messages on Facebook that it was going to open back up, and these two lovely ladies opened up they called it the Banter, and about 6 months, 8 months later, I was actually hosting, and I hosted Banter for several years.
For a while, yeah.
Yeah.
Banter was the biggest open mic in this town.
Well, at one time, it was the only open
that's
mic.
true.
But and I went from
So
there, and
what?
I did.
Forgive me. What was its layout? Was it just like a bar that had a microphone in the corner?
Coffee
Literally
shop.
coffee
It
shop.
was a
Sold beer.
coffee shop that sold
Okay.
beer, and they had a reasonably good sized stage. I mean, it was about a 10 by 12 stage, and a lot of times
for a
It was a
But-
fucking shoebox, and you know it.
well, okay, yes, it was
That stage was definitely not 10 by 12.
He means inches.
so speak at the sound wizard.
I'm thinking metric here, so
Oh, okay, all right, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
it was a postage stamp. Yes, it was.
We would cram so many fucking people on that tiny stage, though. I mean, like
well, we
entire
had people
big
set up at
bands
the
and
floor.
shit.
Yeah, because we had a big band at the time.
We did. There was like 7 people in that band.
That's where the Hickory Street Hellraisers were born. Is on that,
That's the one I talked to you. It was weird. It started off as like straight Delta blues, right? Mm-hmm. And then kind of like started to morph towards like more Americana, which I mean I like, but I don't necessarily like to play because the bass lines are a lot of like mountain beat, like dome, 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 dome. It's like,
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah, changed
And
that real
then
quick.
one day, out of fucking nowhere, I remember I just looked at you. I was like, "What if we just changed the whole thing into like a gothic puppet theater?"
And then what happened.
And and then you brought like 12 songs to the table. It was like, "Yes, this sounds like it belongs in a fucking Tim Burton movie." And then like, so all of a sudden we went from like wearing like just jeans and t-shirts and playing blues and shit to like fucking top hats and eye makeup and like scarves with skulls and shit all over them.
Oh
And,
yeah, you went through the steampunk thing for a while.
kind of
as well.
did. Yeah, it was
Hickory Street Hellraisers were around for a long time.
long time. Cut
But,
a couple albums.
But to answer your question real quick, too late. Started at Banter, and then I went to Two Charlies, and I did both of those for a while, and then started doing it at Abbey Underground, and then
R.I.P. Abbey Underground.
Yep, R.I.P. Abbey Underground. Did both of those for a while.
R.I.P. Banner too.
Quit doing Two Charlies, and then started doing Abbey Underground, and LSA.
And LSA is a burger joint that's on our square down here that has this giant stage.
It's huge.
For the room, that's a pretty
Yeah.
big damn stage.
That was another, when we started out, it was another postage stamp.
Yeah.
But they built a really nice, lovely stage up top.
And they've got like this whole like outside deck.
Beer garden type thing.
Yeah. They won't let us play there because they're outside and we're too damn
Well,
loud
it's,
for the
it's a
square.
very mainstream. It's
open
very-
air, so yeah,
There's a lot of kids and stuff like that.
And they get complaints every week about how loud it is, even with the singer-songwriter stuff they play outside.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the
Lame.
noise ordinances in Denton are ridiculous.
Yeah, they've gotten worse.
Well, plus there's
Why?
what,
It's a
like
freaking college
1,000 people that live on that square now.
Something like that.
Yeah, it was a huge.
no,
number
that's
of
a
people
really
that
good
live up
point,
there.
though. Like, it's a fucking college town, and the cops are up everyone's ass about noise all the time.
Because it gets a little out of hand.
It's
there.
very every time we play a house show here, and the house shows are real fun, especially for the metal bands and stuff, because there's not a whole lot of venues in this town.
Right.
And but every fucking like a cop at least shows up and tells us to shut the fuck up.
Well, that's kind of a
That's not a
stamp
party
on the
until they
night,
show
you know?
up.
I know, right?
You know it's a success.
It's
when
the
you got-
seal of
I
approval.
mean, that was all good when I was like 20, but I'm like 33 years old, and I'm like, that girl looks 16. I don't need to be at the same party as her and this cop.
That's why Doggie doesn't do house parties. Yeah, it's scary. So anyway, went through the open mic thing and all of that, and then we come up with the Denton Radio, DentonRadio.com. And during that period, during the very early period of it, I had and wanted a radio show, and I turned it into a skit show, and we had interviews and stuff like that. And I always had a special guest, and kind of a lot of the tools that we use for the current Radio Free Denton were developed in that initial set, in that initial setup. And that went on for, 36 episodes.
Yeah.
36 episodes. And I'd have singer-songwriters. I had artists, writers.
You had Diesel Beast on one time.
Well, this was actually pre-Diesel Beast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
This
I guess
was
it would have been,
pre-Diesel
yeah.
Beast. But I know you and Jake, one of the best shows, as a matter of fact, was you and Jake Laughlin just kind of walked in the door. I didn't have a special guest. And we ended up, and so we just ended up yakking. That was one of the longest interviews as well.
Yeah, I can
But,
go on.
We went on forever, and then fate stuck its foot in the door, and the city of Denton started getting really interested in DentonRadio.com, mostly because the listenership was huge, and we were putting on events, and we were booking bands. I was booking 2 clubs. And I didn't know how to book a band, even mine, but I managed to keep us all busy for a long time. So we got real busy. We got relatively successful, relatively. The city of Denton says, hey, we want to buy you guys. And we played it smart. We said no. And we went on for about a year and a half after that, built it up a little bit more. City of Denton come back and said, hey, we want to buy you guys. And Jake said yes. And
Jake Laughlin is going to be the dark overlord of Denton someday.
He is now, believe me.
the
Already.
Sauron of Denton.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
cackling
He
into a
is
fucking
Sauron.
crystal ball. Just
Is
No,
his
they-
glowing red eye somewhere to watch over us all?
They built that the studio, the radio DentonRadio.com studio on the square.
Which have you seen that, Craig? It's right next to the burger joint. It's just a
It's
straight up.
on the square. They call it the fishbowl.
Okay.
It's like a little visitor center. They have like Denton T-shirts and shit like that, and then they've got just a legitimate like radio room.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
and they broadcasted directly there. And my one demand was I want an on the air sign. Well, it's still there.
Yeah,
and
it
when,
is.
when they are playing, they have speakers outside. It's the on the air signs on. I was going to carry over the old radio show into this new facility, and we had talked about it. Ellie Meyer, my best bud, she was going to be my engineer. Everything was set. I had all my little sound files. I had the script and everything. Walked in the door the first night, and YouTube is sitting there looking at me.
Oh, really?
And it was immediately a television show, and I was not prepared for it at all.
There's a huge difference between putting on a show as an audio medium and adding any kind of video element to
Absolutely.
that.
It
It's a massive
changes,
difference.
it changes the entire complexion of the show.
Yeah. Right.
And it did, and it ruined it. Because basically what it became, what Doggie Time, which was the original show, what it became was an interview show. And I was mailing it. And the last year that I did it, I think I did it for 2 years. I was mailing it. Half the time I didn't even know who was going to be my guest. You come on in, sit down. We're going to talk.
This is Pete. He's a hobo we found down by the train yard.
Actually,
I was going to say that was
actually, but it was not what I wanted to do. And DentonRadio.com had a big meeting, and Jake said the magic word, podcast. And I'd heard it before, but I'd never really thought about it. And Jake was saying, okay, YouTube's got a shelf life. This has got a shelf life. Podcast is where it's going to be at.
Yeah.
And I went, ooh.
For what was that, 2010? That's pretty forward thinking.
This conversation was about actually 2016.
Oh, really?
Around in there, late 2016, early 2017. The fall of 2017, again, Ellie Meyer and me are sitting in a coffee shop, and I had blown off DentonRadio.com by that time. I just, I wasn't doing that show anymore. Ellie, who was an engineer there, she had blown him off as well.
Yeah.
And Ellie says, let's do a podcast. This was the fall of 2017.
Okay.
The first show aired March of 2018.
Did you already have your full cast of the...
No. It was just me and Ellie, and Ken was one of my regulars here. Hi, Ken. How you doing?
Yeah,
I'm doing pretty
I
good.
was getting around to that. Like, how did you end up joining?
Well, I was a regular at LSA, and
At the open mic.
I was doing open mics, and I started at Banner as well, and then when that shut down, I actually joined a band for a while, but then I quit the band because I'm a band. No, just kidding.
He's one of those one-man band guys.
No,
with
I'm
the
not a
drums
one-man
on
band.
his back and all of that.
I don't want to be a one-man band.
You know how
guy.
sad it would
I've
be,
seen-
though, if you had to quit your own one-man band?
I know. I was in a one-man band, and I had
Worse than
creative
that.
differences. And,
Worse
and
than that, he got fired from his
Fired
own
from your own one-man band?
I was the one let go from my one-man
That's
band.
right, that's right.
Exactly.
It's all your rambunctiously.
Ken's too much of a diva. You got to go, man.
Can't deal with this. But anyway.
I had a terrible falling out with myself, and I owe me $30. That's what really ticks me off. So anyway,
I'm playing, and talking to Bone Doggie all the time, and we just talk. And actually, we were talking about the different radio shows and different ideas.
Yep.
And we were talking about. It'd be not because I saw your thing at Denton Radio, and I said, "Oh, it would be a great idea to do this or this or this," and then I guess you just mentioned the podcast idea, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm in."
yeah.
And you had done some comedy prior to this, right? Didn't you have something going? You told me about it one night.
But way back in the '80s, I did some open mic stand-up comedy.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
and-
ballsy in the 80s.
Yeah, it is. That's ballsy anytime.
It really is.
There's one guy from that. It was out in Sacramento, actually, California. And there's one guy from there who's actually on TV sometimes. So
Nice.
He's one guy from there made it.
Stand-up comedy is so brutal. I did it twice, maybe.
It is the most frightening thing.
I'm no slouch. I spend a pretty fair amount of my time in front of a crowd on a stage, but it was surreal. And I didn't even bomb. I did all right, but I remember getting off and just being like, God, this is fucking brutal, man.
It is. And the first time I bombed, and then but some guy in the audience said, "Hey, keep it up."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay, yeah."
Will do.
I'm there. Because the first time I had one joke, and I give you 5 minutes or something like that, and one joke only lasts 10 seconds. I'm like, oh crap, what do I do now?
Well, we did. Remember the
Improv.
comedy show we did at J&J's?
Yeah, that was where I started doing stand-up comedy. Was at that show. We basically played in this variety band for all the comics.
Well, it wasn't even the Hellraiser. Well, it was mostly the Hellraiser.
It was mostly, but it was we
other
weren't
people
playing.
as well.
We do a couple of full songs in between sets and shit like
Yeah,
that.
we
But
were
I
kind
mean,
of like a Tonight Show band.
yeah, we just kind of played the comedians on it. I mean, there were some nights where it was the most fun gig in the world, and then there were some nights where I drank my body weight in fucking Schlitz because I could
how we
not
got paid.
handle what was going on in there.
Yeah, comedy's really weird, and to do comedy, you have to have the right crowd for comedy. The
For
place
sure.
I was
To do
doing
it
it
live,
was a little bar that on Wednesday nights they did open mic comedy, and that's what people came there for. So
Was
they were
for comedy.
Yeah,
They
it was
were
for
ready.
comedy. They were
Yeah.
ready for it, and it wasn't like LSA. People weren't eating or something like that. It was just that they were there sitting there drinking, wanting comedy. So it was perfect for it.
Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in Denton especially, like when a comedian hits an open mic unannounced here, it usually does not go very well for the guy
seen a
unless
couple.
it's like a primarily comedy show. But I
It's
have
like chewing your foot
Abbey
off.
Underground was the fucking worst because they kept showing up, but
Yeah.
no one wanted to fucking listen to them.
Especially management, man. I used
Yeah.
to yell that all the time. You got too many comedians. I said, well, that's who's showing up, you know. And I had a rule. I love this. This was like talk about throwing a spanner in the wrench. They'd get up there to do comedy. I said, okay, I got a PG-13 rule. And they just look like, are you insane? And I'm going, nope.
Nope.
Get up there.
Here's your
and-
challenge, motherfucker.
That's right. Do what you would do if you were going to be on Letterman.
I wouldn't last 10 seconds.
Working
Some of them
under
Actually,
didn't,
yeah.
you know?
My
working
comedy
under-
actually worked out. I mean, was more of a PG-13. I mean, every once in a while, but I didn't. Really
was
rely
pretty
on it.
universal.
Some of them were
Yeah, it was
just
pretty
ridiculous.
It was. A friend actually heard me one time and said I was out like Paul Reisner,
Okay.
that type of stuff, and he said, "Oh, it's not the same jokes that he did. Of course, I did.
Yeah, but just the kind of
observational type of
Yeah.
stuff. No real jokes, but yeah, that type of stuff.
just musings,
which,
really.
which was in at that time.
Maybe
Yeah.
you should have stole some of his material. You'd still be doing it.
Well, he wasn't famous. I was before him. I was,
See
early.
there?
That's stole your shit.
He stole
he
my
stole your
crap,
shit.
yeah.
Right.
He saw you at an open mic one time, was like, holy shit.
Son of a bitch.
This. Next thing you know, he's on TV.
I know.
So, what's your musical background? Like
Yeah.
you said, you were in a band for a minute. What do you play?
I just play guitar open mic. I just do covers. I'm more of a cover guy, and it was a cover band.
Okay.
I do have a few originals, but they're not that good.
So have you just done the one band, or have you done like cover bands before?
No,
that?
I bought a guitar about 30 some odd years ago, and fooled around with it for a while. But
Is that
and then
how old that guitar is?
no, not that guitar.
Okay.
You haven't seen the one that's that old.
I don't want to.
All right.
Your guitar is old enough.
I'm gonna. It's an electric.
It's older than my kids, man.
No, it is.
No, it isn't.
You could have had a golden moment there.
Right?
And blew it.
Just
No,
roll with it,
so it's
man.
almost
How
as
old am I, father?
I have the slightest idea.
Yeah, that's what I
I
thought.
don't remember.
Well, I bought the guitar in '85.
That was before.
Okay, that is
the.
the exact year I was
Okay,
born.
there you go.
What was that 22 years ago?
Yeah, totally. 22 years ago, still have full head of flowing gold hair.
85.
You were born in 85?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. I knew one of you was born in 85. And the
Now
other
somebody
was
has to
born
do
in
some math real
All right,
quick.
now, what's the other one's name?
87. What's the other one's name? Mama. She just dropped about, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, my shout out to Curly.
Shout out to Curly.
She had Pepper Ann. I have a brand new niece.
Oh,
She's great.
congratulations.
We're very proud.
Nice.
She's healthy and she looks exactly like her fucking mama.
Yeah. But
Good for her.
Yeah, right. She's really scored there. So again, so fast forward, you've done some comedy, you've been playing in open mics and stuff, and so he just approached you and was like, "Hey, I'm bringing back Golden Age radio," and you were like, "Fuck yeah!"
Well, I've always been a big fan of Golden Age radio myself.
Right.
I remember as a kid, I used to listen to. I grew up in Orlando, and at midnight they used to have the Mercury Theater, playing on a radio station, and I had a little radio I would put under my pillow and listen to because I was supposed to be sleeping.
Right.
but I was listening to this,
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men?
But a lot of them,
shadow
just
knows.
different shows, and I thought it was really cool. And then I also did a little bit of acting in college and stuff. And I was in the theater group. And, it's always been a good hobby for me or whatever. And I'm always looking for opportunities to get involved in something. So
I mean, you're good at it. You kill it on the show.
Yeah.
When
Thanks.
I joined the season when you guys were doing the the Nazi clowns.
the Nazi Clowns.
Nazi Clowns,
halfway
yeah.
through season.
Yeah, it was about-
halfway through series 1.
Series
which
one.
we haven't got to in the new release of the podcast.
Okay, well, stay tuned for Nazi clowns. But I mean, you guys.
Spoilers.
They just the whole what they do is they basically take that golden era format
Right.
of like, sound effects and over the top dialects and shit like that. And then, but instead of having like a coherent storyline, it's like, what if Monty Python just did a shitload of acid and did like some like stream of consciousness shit on a typewriter?
It's a bunch of high dudes just rolling with it. Is what they're saying.
That's what it sounds like.
There actually is a continuity.
There is
to the story. There's
like a plan, man.
It works out that way.
Radio Free Denton, as it sits now, the current incarnation of it, is a group of people. Ken, myself, Ray Jan, who showed up about the same time that Ken did, and what happened was
so hold on. Is it a crew of 3 of you then?
no.
Well,
This
there's
is
a
where it
cast
gets
of several.
weird. It started out. Me and Ken, we talked about it, and then Ray Chan, she was there, and I think she had been playing in the collective for a while, and she wanted to be involved, and so she was in on it, and she was also a regular at the open mic, and then Maggie May, was also a regular, so there was 4 of us. Counted Ellie, there's 5. So we started out with 5 people.
Okay.
And we recorded the first several pilot episodes, if you want to call them that, with the 5 of us. And then Carrick come along, but I had segments from Carrick from way back when. And we rejuvenated and we revived one of his segments, which called Bam Bam Cares.
Those are hilarious.
Bam Bam was it's my family nickname, and it used to be my stage name. But I basically would just say random musings that just came to my head, like, I'm a triple threat. I can sing, act, and I found a gun. Or just whatever Bam Bam Cares. That's actually... shout out to Titus Andromedon. I just ripped that line off hard.
Right. So basically what happened is the 5 of us, we got together in Ken's kitchen.
Yep.
And Ellie had the equipment, and we recorded the first couple episodes. And we come up with a storyline. We're going to do a podcast about doing a podcast.
Okay.
And so,
But in the podcast, we never actually do the podcast. We just talk about doing a podcast.
Exactly.
It's that type of
That's
thing.
fucking funny.
That's the good. That's the kind of in joke. But the thing is, we move in the first episode. We are literally moving into a old, dilapidated building that supposedly is on Locust Street. And it's got a giant hole in the floor. Oops, sorry about that. It's got a giant hole in the floor. That's big part of the storyline. And we move in. Then
Why you need to move in together when you're doing a podcast, I don't really know.
It's a hotel.
Solidarity,
Because
Ken.
everybody's there, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's the way we did it.
Exactly.
So everybody, we move in. They, Bone Doggie, they drag him out of the trunk of Maggie's car because he's asleep in Maggie's car because of new car smell. And everybody's got their personality, right? And Bone Doggie, of course, ends up falling in the hole.
Yeah.
Well, he finds a jukebox down in the bottom of the hole.
Well, we haven't done that yet.
Yeah,
Oilers.
It's coming.
For the people that don't
you
know,
just
releases
totally
in 2
ruined the
days.
next season.
No.
Season 1 has just been told.
So anyway, what happens is we go through the entire series of events that would happen if it was real, to where we hire contractors to pump the place up, fix it up nice, get Doggie out of the damn hole in the floor, get it all built up. And the entire time that this is going on, everybody is being terrorized by a group of dead clowns, ghosts of dead clowns. And you hear this just random times all over the place. And so Ken gets in a lot of trouble, pisses off Rachel, which you don't do. We call her Lady Macbeth, actually, on the show.
Yes.
That's her nickname. And
Rage is sweet, but she will fuck you.
she will. So anyway, Ken has to go. He is tasked with finding the
history of the
origins
hotel.
of the hole in the floor, the hotel building, which is called the Grimaldi,
Yes.
which Grimaldi was the first person to perform clown in whiteface.
No shit. That's
Yeah,
an
that's
interesting piece of trivia.
That's where
There
we
you go.
got that name. So the
Learn
Grimaldi
something
Hotel-
new every day here on the Warlord Radio podcast.
His likeness
there you
has
go.
gone on to terrify generations of human beings.
I think it was Rachel that actually found that. She came up
Probably.
with that little tidbit.
Well, and that's-
so we called it the Grimaldi Hotel.
Do we know a timeline on when that happened?
What do you mean?
Like
the
when
first
Grimaldi
clown?
first started to do it with whiteface.
I want to say it was early 1800s.
Okay.
I have no
Yeah,
idea.
I think it was
probably-
early to mid 1800s, I believe. It's been a while since I've checked into it.
Well, we'll ask Rach when she's on the podcast. She's going to come and talk about ghosts. It's going to be awesome.
Okay.
But yeah, so and she also does kind of like a little has like her own segment where she talks about like weird conspiracy theories and shit, right?
Interesting factoids with Rachel. Rachel.
Yeah, we talk.
You guys are killing me. I have an image on this show, and they don't know about that shit.
We do a lot of our own music, and that was one of it. But yeah, Rachel does a segment we do on conspiracy theories.
Yeah, and she also she'll tell like the odd ghost story or like an alien.
Well, it's
Yeah.
we've done a couple.
So what was the most recent conspiracy theory that was tackled?
Well, we just did
Mandela
the.
effect,
Okay.
and we did Goatman's Bridge.
Yeah.
We've
Okay.
done
there.
Area 51,
52, or
2,
Area 51, or
1,
Area
52.
Well, Area 52,
Whatever it takes.
that's Dolce, right?
Whatever
That's the
it's-
big underground facility.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't want to give away everything that's in the book.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, what nobody realizes about New Mexico is there are massive underground bases all fucking over that state, and they
they're
have
connected.
schematics for them. Like, this is provable. This is a fact.
Oh, we did the Bermuda Triangle as well. So we've
Oh,
done.
yeah.
We're gonna do MK Ultra.
Why on your show you're going to do MK Ultra?
I have no idea anything
the
about
government
I deny-
pedophile ring. You're going to cover that on your nice park with the ghost clowns.
We'll edit it.
Well, that was different. That wasn't MK Ultra. MK Ultra was them.
The mind control.
Mind control,
control stuff.
trying a bunch of
You're right. I'm
psychedelics.
thinking of the Roosevelt thing.
Yeah.
Was that the Roosevelt cover
Well,
up?
I don't know
But
exactly.
MK Ultra
I
was
don't
like
know
the
what you're thinking
CIA.
about.
Oh no, the CIA
Yeah,
were like
the
using
CIA.
like child spies and shit, right?
I'm not sure what that was called,
that-
but MK Ultra was specific. It was it lasted for only a handful of years, and they
what
did
they
a lot
want
of
you to believe.
they did a lot of studies as far as like dosing hospital patients with like high levels of psychedelics and just seeing what would
LSD.
happen.
Isn't
Oh,
that what
jeez.
Wormwood was about? Wasn't that about MK Ultra?
I'm not
It was
sure.
a Netflix original. It just came out a few.
I didn't,
maybe
I
a
didn't
year
see that
ago.
one, so I
How do
can't
you
speak
find
to it.
yourselves in these focus groups where the government's like, give that dude free drugs?
Oh, dude, this is funny. Is when they discovered LSD,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a guy, I guess, in Sweden that was making it. And
I have cuked this thing in my bathtub. It really fucks you up.
you should check this out.
neat
I'm the
thing-
only one that's got it.
I am tripping
The neat thing
balls.
about it was he made it with just one tool.
What? An Allen wrench joke? You made an IKEA joke about acid.
So anyway, the CIA would go over there and buy it and come back, and for a long time they were experimenting on themselves. You go,
Yeah.
you're working for the CIA. You go into the break room and get a cup of coffee, and the next thing you know, you're tripping balls.
But the problem is, and I like,
And everybody's going, look at Fred.
I've seen this happen. If you don't know that you're ingesting drugs and then you start tripping, you think you're going fucking insane.
Well, that one guy actually did
Exactly.
end up jumping in a window.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they had what my favorite is the project. I think it was called Nighthawk or something like this. Rachel knows which one it is where they were actually giving the LSD to the hookers in California, and these hookers were giving it to their clients, and then they were writing down the results, and so they were experimenting on Johns in California.
yeah.
This is like the early 50s, mid 50s, around in there, and MK Ultra actually came from that.
But wasn't George Bush Sr. was involved in MK Ultra? correct? That was when
Bush,
he was.
the Bushes were involved in a lot of that crap. Yeah,
Yeah. But I mean, I
He
know
was CIA.
very little about it.
He
Yeah.
was CIA.
Interesting. But
So
yeah,
anyway, yeah, we're
apparently the government will give you free drugs if you find out where they're distributing those. Please holler at us at Warlord Radio Podcast. Trying to get those good government drugs.
That's right, because they're really good about that stuff. So,
If the rest of their drugs are like their weed, you don't want the government drugs.
That's true, dude.
you don't
I
like
remember
government weed?
Dude,
government weed used to be great.
No,
Back in the
well,
day, it was
okay.
awesome.
So the last time,
Not that I
the
would
only
know.
time I ever had government weed, I was probably like 16. But I knew an old guy, and he got a little tin that had got 30 joints in like every month or something
Yeah.
like that. You know,
Like prescription joints.
we sat and smoked like 5 of those things. I didn't feel a damn thing.
Really? Because
Yeah.
there was that guy outside the show in Oklahoma. We smoked half of that shit and couldn't see straight.
gonna say,
Where the fuck was I?
the one time
I don't know. I couldn't see straight.
Right? Yeah.
I don't know.
Government weed sounds like a terrible type of fish jam band.
Oh, man, it really does. Just like, hey, we're just going to play Grateful Dead covers for like 7 hours.
7 hours. That'll cover 3 or 4 songs. Yeah.
I totally rabbit holed on that one. Actually, it's right about time for our break, so we're going to step outside, put some tobacco in our lives. We are going to we're going to play some clips from Radio Free Denton, correct? Is that what the plan is? Are we not doing that? I'm announcing it. Hey, something's going to happen here. Let us know.
We're going to have some wacky sound effects here in the break.
We can supply you with a couple clips.
There you go.
Good deal. All right, stay tuned. We will be right back.
So Pistachio took the case for a handful of big ones, huh?
And the money, too. But little did he know that at the same exact time, in a shady sort of room in a shady hotel on the shady side of town, a foul and insidious scenario was being played out by some very shady characters.
What kind of shady characters?
Oh, the worst kind of shady characters there are. Clowns.
Wow, that's shady, all right.
Franz, can you not keep the prisoner quiet? He's giving me the ache in the head. Yeah, Franz. His constant complaining is becoming most annoying.
Vetter und Greta, you must have the patience. We have fitted the prisoner with the blindfold and the gag sock in the gob as our Clownsführer has instructed. And now we wait for his return.
But when will our clowns will return, Franz?
Our Clownsführer will be returning right now.
Clowns, Achtung! Minus Clownführer. Our clowns are assembled and the prisoner is in custody as directed.
Good. Well, if it isn't the famous Dr. Hiram Dinkfelder.
No, Hans, it is.
What?
You said it isn't the famous Dr. Dinkfelder, but it is.
Ja, Hans, it is. We got the right guy. That's what the name on the mailbox said.
Schweigen! Dummkopf! Silence! I was making a menacing opening speech and you screwed it up. Now I have to start all over again.
Sorry, Hans.
Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. Well. If it isn't the famous Dr. Hiram Dinkfelder. You are probably wondering, Herr Doctor, why you are now in the custody of clowns.
I was. Yeah, me too.
What?
Well, we were all wondering, Hans. Why did we kidnap this guy?
Und the west wing of the house.
I was just about to tell... What? The west wing of the house? Is that what that is outside?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the whole thing. And it wasn't easy.
And we didn't have any place else to put it.
Why the hell did you... Oh, no, never mind. You are causing me to deviate from my sinister monologue.
Sorry, Hans.
Now, Professor, as I was saying, you are probably wondering why we brought you here. I will tell you.
Finally.
Schweigen! The reason we have kidnapped you, Herr Doctor, is not for the mere money, no, but something much more important. We want from you a secret formula. What do you have to say about that? I'm sorry I didn't get that.
Well, welcome back to part 2 of the Warlord Radio podcast. We have Bone Doggie and Ken from Denton Free Radio here.
Radio Free Denton.
Radio Free Denton. Sorry, I fucked that up.
Fuck you,
God
Greg.
damn it. Radio Free Denton.
I did that several times,
that
too.
down.
I wanted to ask some behind-the-scenes kind of production questions. I'm very curious to see
Logistics.
how it works. You know, like, how do you guys run this? Where do you do it? Like, what's the crew doing while you're doing your bits? Is everything added in post? You know, are there Foley artists there live? How do you guys handle that?
It's very much done like old time radio. I have a studio built in the house, and we have a couple mics set up, and we literally crowd around the microphones.
Yep.
And everybody's got a script in their hand, and what we do is we do the raw audio, the raw voice, which is golden because you crack up and you ad
We
lib
do
and
that a
stuff
lot.
like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of
and I
ad-libbing.
use those,
Right.
for the intro of the show and everything. And
You have to be careful what you say.
You really do, but I
Only
edit
if you
it out.
care what other people think.
That's true.
But we literally we read the scripts. We usually read through it aloud once.
Yeah.
But and for a while there we were doing it several times, but that took the spontaneity out of it. So we read through it once just so everybody kind of gets an idea, and then we go and we put it on digital and we record. I've got a little H4 recorder. And we run. I got a couple really nice microphones. And we run that through a little board and into the H4, and we record all of the voice. And then post production is basically me sitting down, and I edit the voice first, and I edit all of the vocals basically. Essentially, and then I go in and I put in the sound effects and the music and stuff like that post production.
And what's crazy is when we did, and you'll get to this when you listen to the show. But in the season finale was like much longer than the typical skits.
It was 35,
And there was
minutes,
like 6 of us crammed in that fucking room
for hours.
we were in there for like 2 or 3 hours At first, we were all very professional, and then by the end, it was just like, we're just going to kind of run with this and see what the hell happens.
When we read a skit, it's usually about 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
And we do it in 1-2 takes. That grand finale, we literally read it in 5 separate acts because there were 5 storylines going on at the same time.
Well, it was like a typical script for at least the segments that I was doing with you guys was like maybe 5 to 7 pages.
Yeah.
And then
This was 30
he
pages
hands
long.
us the script of the last episode. First off, we were all wondering why we were all there at the same time. Because sometimes, you will record in this group and group B will come in later because it's
not a very big room.
It's not a very big room.
Yeah.
But, we show up and every cast member is there crammed into this tiny room, and he hands us like this 30-page fucking script. He's like, all right, we're going to read through it once, and that took like an hour.
It did. I don't know when this is going to air.
Probably about a month or so.
2020.
Yeah. No, we'll
About
get you.
when?
We'll get you in before October.
Okay, well, probably by that time, then the grand finale that we're talking about, I believe it's going to show up in like RFD episode 10, 11, or 12, around in there. And so I imagine by the time this is on the air, that will have been there. But we read like I say, we did it in 5 acts,
Right.
and tried a few things that we had never tried before. So we got to experiment a little bit, which was lovely. One of the things I did was usually have a narrator that tells you what's fixing to go on. Well, what I did was the narration, I had a total recap of the entire story, and everybody read their part of the recap in their voice.
So you're the script writer?
I'm the script writer.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how long do you take to come up with the story before you hand it off to everybody and you're like, hey, do this?
It could be anywhere between 45 minutes and 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
And
then will you actually like type it up and have like
Yes.
an
Oh,
actual
yeah.
script that you give to everybody?
Yes.
And
Yes.
then pretty much kind of everybody gets what they're doing
Office
day
Depot,
of.
Yeah.
Office Depot loves to see me coming. Man,
Right,
'cause
that's
I get,
true.
Here you go, make me 5 copies of this or 12 copies of that.
Yeah.
But we usually like he might send us a text like, "Hey, you're playing a fucking communist transvestite or something." That's not or whatever the hell it is.
Ooh,
So
that's good. Write that down.
typecasting is what
yeah,
you're saying.
exactly. Yeah, really playing in my wheelhouse here. But
It's you. Just run with it.
That's why. That's one of the reasons that the show is actually spread out every 2 weeks, because it does take me several hours. I mean, like hours to do an entire show.
because I mean, you do directing, editing, all the
Writing.
sound effects, writing. music.
I do music for
and like
Emma
I mean, and we help when we can, I guess. But Bone Doggie's a fucking control freak. First off,
Yeah.
I'm throwing that out there right now.
He'll let me write a few things once in a while.
Yeah, right.
No, actually, he wants me to write some more, but I know.
Please.
You know,
I'm trying. I think at this particular time, I'm in negotiations with the lovely and talented Emma Ricks.
Oh, wow,
and trying to
okay.
get her to write some stuff. She's got some really bizarre ideas.
Yes, she does.
And,
So, Kim,
Emma
what have
Ricks
you
is
written? Is it
interesting.
mainly just like stuff for your character? Like
well, no,
lines
I mean,
for-
I'll do some other skits. So
the segment.
segment we've been talking about is like a different section. We'll have
Right.
other sections, and so
Okay.
I have a section Ken answers email.
That's
where,
right,
Well,
yeah.
I'll answer
Those are
email.
cool. I love
Email.
Do you have?
That's my
Make
story.
'em
I'm
up.
sticking
We
with
make 'em up. Bob from Mulberry Street sent in this email.
See, you're ruining. You're breaking the fourth wall there. People are thinking the real email,
Spoiler
but no,
alert.
we actually do have an email address that people could send us in
Whoa.
stuff.
What
What
is
is it?
our email address, Ken?
We have a couple of them. We have
Well, give them both.
We have radiofreedenton@gmail.com as well as I think it had info at radiofreedenton.com.
Yeah.
And you can just ask you questions, and then you'll pick them out.
That's what we're trying to get people to do. Yeah.
Probably should not have told me
And-
that.
Yeah.
because
No,
that's
I'm going to come
brilliant.
up with some stuff.
Please. Okay,
I-
this
oh,
is
no,
from
I definitely-
Craig again.
Well, I'll make fun of it somehow, but
Please do. I'm just,
What
I
does
love-
human meat taste like?
What is your favorite way to prepare man flesh?
on a stick?
Yes. And then so give me a rundown real quick. Who all is in the cast at this point?
At this point, of course, the primary three is me, Ken, and Ray Chan.
Right.
We have the lovely and talented, extremely talented Polly Maynard.
Polly Maynard is
awesome.
a beast around here. She's been working in like the local theater troupe
Yep.
around here
Years.
since I was in high school, probably. And
She's
what's
also a
funny
musician.
is, she's also a very good musician and just cooler than hell. She's just
Yeah,
awesome.
she's awesome.
But I've never, because I used to do theater around here, and I never got to work with Polly ever until this show. And then she and I hit it off immediately and immediately started playing off each other. She is an incredibly talented actress. She knows exactly what the fuck she's
Really
doing.
wonderful. We call her Lauren Cheney, the woman of 1,000 voices.
Oh,
And
yeah,
she does. I mean, she could do deep Southern.
Yeah,
She could do
anything.
Northern. She just
and she's great to play a scene with because you're right. You just got to play off her. And
her
she
improv
makes it
skills
easy.
are legit. You know what I mean?
seriously.
Like she
She's
could
great.
seriously ad lib and just have you
that was-
rolling on the floor.
That was a big one. Maggie
Yeah, that's a
Messer
tough
from
thing.
time to time. She was one of the originals.
Right.
Maggie has since moved off to Plano, so we don't see her as much as we'd like to. But we brought on Kat Brunet,
Yeah.
a local here in town. That's she's did some Hellraiser gigs, and she's a musician. Everybody's a musician.
That's true.
I think everybody on the cast is a musician. Not everybody does theater, but most everybody has at least dabbled in it.
Right. Yeah.
And then we've got Carrick, of course.
That's me.
A
And
multi-hyphenate carrot.
Yeah, the multi-hyphenate Carrick. And
I
then,
am a man of no masteries, but lots of talents.
Exactly. and then we just brought on Emma Ricks, and Emma is one of the few people that actually writes her own material. She writes poetry.
Do you know Emma? She's you know Andrew Austin from Rod of Obsidian?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
They
his
are
girlfriend.
together.
Okay. I entirely might have met them. Her. You know,
Yeah.
I know Andrew.
You know Andrew.
So no disrespect if she happens to listen to this on the off chance, but
No,
I don't
she's
remember.
real cool, but I didn't know that she did this. But like all of a sudden, because I've known her casually known her for like 3 or 4 years now, and just all of a sudden in the last like 6 months, she's been doing like poetry and singing and and it's like she's super talented.
She's
I'm
a
like,
hell
where the
of a
fuck have you
piano
been for the
player.
last 4 years?
I know. She's a hell of a piano player. She's a wonderful singer. She writes the most off the wall songs. She writes and I told her, I said, write off the wall poetry, just stuff that's left field.
And it's fucking wild.
Yeah,
Some of it's real dark.
Seriously. And then, but she's a dancer. I mean, she's literally
Cosplayer.
one of those people. Yeah, that just
She
do
was
all of it.
going to audition for Diesel Beast, but then Ziggy came along, and
Yeah.
Ziggy's the guy we ended up going with. But
Well, she asked us like
right after we hired
we'd
him,
already
yeah.
been through all of the audition process and stuff. Yeah, so it
Yeah.
was just kind of late. We had already kind of chosen Ziggy, and so it was like, yeah.
You're out of the band, Ziggy.
So we have an.
That'd be interesting to hear you
incredibly-
guys with the female vocalist.
We toyed around with it. We also had
we tried two.
yeah.
Oh, yeah?
We actually
Well,
auditioned
Megan,
two.
you tried Megan.
We
right?
tried Megan and then, Allie Johnson.
Allie, yeah.
Oh, did you
Yeah,
try Allie Johnson?
Allie
Yeah.
came in
Oh
and
wow.
she actually out of the
She
first
sounded the
round,
most like Ghost.
Yeah, out of the first
Yes,
round of
yes,
auditions,
I can
she
believe
was
that.
the closest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
it was interesting.
So anyway, we've been very blessed. We've got an amazing cast, and they learn off of each other. And that's the wonderful thing. Especially, you get Polly in the room with everybody.
Yeah,
and
Polly's a
everybody
little bit
elevates.
inspirational, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. She
She
walked in.
ups my
Everybody,
game.
me too. I was going to say that.
And
Yeah,
then,
man,
of course,
yeah.
and I cannot forget this is the lovely and talented Ellie Meyer, who is really this is her fault.
Ellie Meyer is also a sound wizard a
Yeah.
bit. She's
That's
very
her
good.
thing. That's her thing. She can read a line.
Yeah.
But as soon as we started this bloody thing, she traipses off and moves to Dallas. and I
It's like, yeah, I'll produce your podcast. Bye.
Yeah, and I see Ellie about once every. Well, she's been running sound at open mic, and so that's about when we get to see Ellie. She's working. She does a couple podcasts on the side. She is a producer for.
She's a beast.
A couple of the local radio personalities that have podcast shows and stuff. She does that stuff. She runs live sound. She works for White Noise. I mean, she's jack of all trades.
She's
She
cooler
works a
than
lot.
shit, too,
So what I do if I write Ellie into a script, usually what I'll do is just write her lines and email them to her, and she records them and emails them back.
Yeah, that's the wonderful thing about voice work. Like,
You don't have to be in the room.
No, it's just like Jay and I make money in a closet sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, just
So,
Don't tell them that. You need to rephrase that a
Yeah.
little bit because the money we make in the closet
Jay
is
and I
totally different
make
from
out in the
voiceover work.
closet for cash.
There you go. But actually, one of the things that I'm toying with is having like a little contest or something go on in my Facebook or something like that, to where somebody out there, one of our fans, one of our regular listeners, can do something to actually earn a guest spot and start having guest spots on the show where people could come in and just do a little bit or something like that.
That can either be awesome or go horribly, horribly wrong.
It will
Yeah.
never go horribly, horribly wrong because I've got the button.
All right?
Because he edits everything. So.
I'm the one that releases the fucking show.
Right.
And if Doggie says no, then buck stops here, baby.
Benevolent dictatorship.
That's right.
Having random people in there sounds like a good idea, but it'd kind of be like randomly jamming with somebody
Well, you
on an
get 'em
instrument
in,
where you
but
could be like,
Yeah.
You do a contest for an audition.
Craig. We literally just take random people that we know and just like, hey man, come over here to this building we have with all this equipment in it. Just check out. Do you want the code? We'll give you the code.
Well, that's the funny thing, though, is when I tell our friends, who are mostly musicians and actors and stuff like that, tell them about the podcast, everybody is like, oh, man, you need voice. You give me a holler.
right.
Even
Everybody
people
wants
that
to do
aren't
voice.
performers,
I'm with you on that. Like,
Yeah.
that's you knowing somebody and you're like, yes, you're talented, that. I just mean the aspect of like, because for instance, I could not imagine like just pulling a random person off the street and jamming with them musically.
Really?
Yeah, I'd stab them in the head.
I do that shit all the time. If I'm drunk enough and I have a guitar, I'll play with a busker. I don't give a fuck.
Maybe it just depends on what your expectations are.
Right.
I know this is going to suck, so I'm going to drink, and we're just going to have a good time.
No, it's the funny thing about voice, and I mean, like, if you breathe it to anyone, it's like one of those things, like, or to tell somebody you're a stand-up comedian or something like that. It's like, oh, I can do some jokes.
Yeah.
Everybody
No,
in
you
my
can't.
office says I'm fucking hilarious, and it's like, it's not the same.
No, it's not the same.
And as soon, the literal second I started doing like actual voice work for money,
Yeah.
like people were coming out of the woodworks like, hey, can you get me some gigs? And I'm like, fuck no, I'm trying to get my own gigs.
Exactly.
if I find the gig, I'm taking
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Get
It's
your
my
own
gig.
shit.
That's the thing, though, and especially when you do it, when you finally get the knobs to do it, and you get it produced and you listen to it, you realize that you just don't jump out of a tree and do this stuff.
No. Right.
You got to work.
There's
at
a
it,
skill set involved for sure. There is a certain rhythm
Yes.
that you have to find. So
Yes.
that's not only good for acting, but also good for editing. You have to learn how to turn a page properly, which nobody teaches you. When you go into a voice studio,
these are
for the
all
first
things
time,
you learn on your own.
Yeah,
we have a system. When we get to the back end of that page, get to the very bottom of it, they read the last line. We all pause. Everybody turns the page at the same time, and then we start back up again. Because we learned the hard way. First 2 or 3 episodes, you could hear paper all over the background.
there are legit
bumping into tables and shit.
voice auditions that I've been to where they will X a guy because he doesn't know how to turn a page. There is certain. And ask Jay. Jay says this shit all the time.
So how is the right way to turn a page?
Exactly how he said it. You wait till a breath and a pause. Everybody turn at the same time.
Okay,
so
so it's more of a timing thing.
Out.
It's not a technique.
Yeah, no, it's not like you have to do it with just your pinky and you have to slightly curve your foot out for optimal balance.
You must bend the paper at a 32-degree angle.
Will it
turn?
turn?
I know. I worked for this guy from Switzerland who did it at a 35-degree angle, and it pissed everybody off.
Yeah,
and
fuck
he
that
said,
guy.
"Man, I do metric. I don't know what you're doing."
This is the second time we've talked shit about the Swedes.
I love the Swedes. They're awesome. Hey, I bought
Because we know they won't fight
albums.
back.
Because they burn down churches and kill people with knives.
Oh, no, that's Norwegians.
Yeah, fuck the Swedes.
Yeah.
Who are the guys with the horns coming out of their head?
Oh, you're gonna have to be waiting. You're talking about Lordy?
No, the Finns.
The
I
Finns.
guess.
Oh yeah, the
the
pagan
Finns.
metal. That's awesome shit. Pagan metal's great. Pagan metal is if vodka was a music.
Yeah. I think it is.
Actually, that's very
listen to it.
accurate. I like that.
It's good times. So you do the Radio Free Denton thing, and you guys are you release every 2 weeks, correct?
Yes, we release every 2 weeks.
How long is a season?
Right now, I'm thinking that a season is probably a good 10 episodes.
And you release so you release 2 episodes
Bi-weekly.
per show?
Per month. 2 episodes per month.
Well,
See, that's
right.
the confusing thing.
There's bits. There's two of the.
There's
of
2
the-
bits within each episode, though,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah. So there's the Lives of Radio Free Denton bits,
Yes,
and
yeah,
there's
that's
usually
good.
2 of those per show, and every show is about 45 minutes or so.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah,
45, 50
I
minutes.
thought that, when I go to see somebody play live or something like that, a good 45-minute set is good for me.
Right.
And I thought, well, hell, if you're going to do a podcast, 45 minutes is actually
It's
a
not
regular
bad.
commute.
Because
So-
I listen to a lot of I listen to a ton of fucking podcasts because I work alone
Yeah.
all day, so it's just me. So I listen to podcasts all day long, and I have noticed that there is a sweet spot between about 45 minutes and about an hour and a half. And then once it starts getting past that, first off, your ears just start to hurt.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And because your ears literally get fatigued, and then there is something about just the rhythm of it. Because I fucking love. Do you listen to Hardcore History by Dan?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I love that shit, but it's like 9 hours of my fucking life, dude.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
it's a
like,
long show.
do you want to learn about
Dan Carlin?
Shout out to Dan Carlin, the man, the myth, the legend. He did the series though on the Celtic Holocaust. When the Romans came in and wiped out all the fucking Gaelic
Fantastic.
tribes.
Yep.
No, it was just amazing. But it's like so fucking long, and there's so much
They're
information.
like 3 or 4 hour episodes, and then there's like 5 or 6 of them per subject.
Yeah.
That's just amazing.
Well, that's like the World War I one.
Oh
And the
man.
Genghis
Which was
Khan
greatness.
one?
It was greatness. I loved
Genghis.
Whatever.
Genghis Khan.
Genghis, who cares? GIF, I don't give a fuck.
Isn't that which one do you have to pay for? Doesn't he have a series?
Yeah, he has a
Well, no, well, he's
Patreon.
got
Pay
2 that
for?
are free. There's Hardcore History, and then there's another one that he does.
Can't
like
remember
his
it.
normal
Yeah.
podcast that's free. The Hardcore History is actually like a side project he does.
Somebody was telling me he did a series on Genghis Khan, and you literally have to pay.
It's
$10
like, yeah,
to
well, a
get
lot of
it.
podcasters, what they
'Cause it's
do,
2
because
days
you're
long
new
or
to the
something.
game. We don't do this because, fuck it, I guess we're allergic to money. But what a lot of podcasters will do is they'll release 90% of their material just for free on Spotify or whatever, and then they'll have a Patreon account, and you can go
Yes.
through Patreon or another service like Patreon,
bonus stuff.
and get
Yeah.
bonus shit, and there are some podcasts out there that make a pretty damn good living off Patreon.
And I'm gonna give a huge shout out. One of the shows that I listen to religiously, and one of the things that I take a lot of cues from is Welcome to Night Vale.
Oh yeah.
Those guys, they tour live constantly. They have a library of books that you can buy. They have merchandise out the wazoo. They also tour Europe. Mm-hmm. You know, but the way Night Vale runs their show, and granted, you know, it's not a huge cast. In fact, it's usually just one narrator. Mm-hmm. You know, and then they have a musical spot at the end. But the thing is, you know, you watch the way they do business and the way that they have handled their podcast. It's just wonderful.
Oh yeah,
You know,
it's
really tightly done, and they know what they're doing. You know, they've been, I don't know how many episodes they're at now, but it's.
I mean,
it's
they're
well
you know
over
they're content generators. Like it's a if you are dead set on running your own network, like you damn sure better fund it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, they seem to do really well, and I think their overhead is relatively low.
That's the cool thing about the podcasting is once you have the equipment, it's relatively low cost. I say that right before I'm probably about to drop a shitload of cash on Frightmare weekend tickets, but come on, press passes.
Yeah, you're probably going to have to buy a new mic stand over there too.
I break shit in here all the time. This is nothing new.
Sure, you do.
But
it's cheap in money, but expensive in time.
It's very. That's the trade-off.
Yeah, this bloody thing's taken over my life.
Oh yeah, and it will. The thing is, it's super fun.
It is.
You know what I mean?
It is so much fun.
And then the voice work is a blast. And you know I mean, we started doing this. What do we figured it almost a year, right? We've been at this almost.
I don't think it's quite that long, wasn't it? Like it
was like 7 or 8 months.
Like August, September.
I don't
No,
remember.
it wasn't that late when we started this thing.
Yeah, because remember we.
Oh no, it was May because it was right before the I Am Man, I Am Monster.
That's right.
So it was May.
Yeah,
that's right.
So coming up on a year,
exactly.
Not too far.
Yeah, so we've been doing this about a year, and I mean it's
crazy.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Thank God for Jason because we recorded one ourselves one time, and I don't think it went very well.
Fucked it up.
Yeah, we really did.
That's
I
what
spent
happened.
more time in post production on that one, but
I think everybody should have.
That's
one
what
of those.
happens when you let the idiots run the show.
Seriously, it was fucked up because Jason's like, I'm not going to be there, and both Craig and I were like, uh-oh. It's like, do you have like a talk boy or something?
Well, we had done one before where it was like you two and Paul Bones, and I wasn't able to be here, so I came in and I set up like an analog mixer, and I like checked all the. I checked all the mics for me, but not for them, and so there was no actual mic check. So when I got the shit back, it was just distorted all to hell. It was just like fuck. I mean, it's not there because that's not what they do. And then the second time I used my H4. And because we went out on location to the Sasquatch, and that's what I recorded that whole episode with, and it sounds fantastic. We were outside.
Oh man!
I just set it on a concrete table, and we were all the way down the table, and it caught everybody like they had a mic in their hand.
Those little guys are they're beasts.
They're
I love
amazing.
them.
They put one on this table, and it sounded like Craig was right in front of it. And it sounded like Carrick was across the room the whole fucking time.
Wow.
We were sitting like as close as we are right now, and it was right between us, and we fucked it up. We got one job, and we couldn't do it. We really
Jason is literally like, push this one button.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I got like 30 messages from both of them. I was at a gig. I was running sound, and I keep getting these text messages. Are you sure that it's going to work? And I'm like, dude, you're not going to record over anything. That's not how this thing works. Are you sure? Because we push record, it's doing something. It's like that's what it's supposed to do. I promise. I promise.
You should have had a fucking talk boy. I know how to operate one of those.
One thing though is I do notice that you've got to push that button though, because when you don't push that button, it doesn't record.
That's true.
When it doesn't record, you got to record again.
Yes,
Right?
you do. And we have, knock on wood, not done that yet, but you know it's going to happen
Don't
someday.
say that shit.
Thanks for jinxing
I'm a
us.
fucking professional over here. I record redundant backups.
Really?
I've got this is being recorded in 2 separate.
Yeah, we
places
got
currently.
B-roll of this.
That's all.
Exactly. Sizzle reel. When does your air air typically?
We release
Or broadcast or stream or whatever the fuck.
Every 2 weeks. Usually, I've got it set at noon Eastern time on a Wednesday.
That's very specific. Any reason why, or that was just like, hey,
That's when I want it to happen.
Yeah, get up on that mic.
I'm on that mic.
There we go. Give your sexy radio voice.
Welcome.
There you go.
KLUTZ, Channel 12. Hey, you got the night fly.
I'm still stuck on T-Bone and the Booger. It's your morning zoo.
And the baby.
Anyway,
Welcome to your morning drive. Woo, woo.
The episodes release Wednesday or every other Wednesday, literally 11 o'clock Central Time. In the morning.
How much lead time between when you record an episode and when it airs?
It depends. Right now, I've got we released episode 1 and 2. Episode 3 has been uploaded to, I'm using Libsyn. It's been uploaded for a week. And I just finished episode 4, the final edit, day before yesterday, actually last weekend.
So you're you're hot on your own tail then.
No, I've got a good month bumper.
Okay, that's
I've got
good.
a good month because what I will do this weekend is I will put episode 4 in the queue, and my what are we coming up on, February?
Yeah.
My February's done. I'm working on March.
Oh, nice.
That's good.
And March is about half finished. So basically what I'm doing at this point is I'm going by, taking some of our old stuff and re-editing it, fixing it up, and then adding new material. We're going to start reading. I think our next reading is February 9, and we are actually reading for part of this series, Series 1, and part of Series 2 as well.
Okay.
Because I'm writing both of them at the same time.
Why?
Yeah, because it's got to be done.
There you go. Fair enough. That's a good enough
Crack the
reason,
whip
isn't
on
it?
yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So let me ask you, you're still out there playing music as well.
Yes.
How often do you get your band together?
Not nearly as much as I used to. We've got 3 gigs booked between now and Arts and Jazz.
When's
is
Arts
this,
No, I take that back. We got one gig booked before Arts and Jazz. Arts and Jazz is at the end of April, and this is the Collective, and that's kind of a weird little story in itself.
we just so happen to be on a podcast that
Yeah, man, go for it.
Okay.
in weird stories.
Okay, so to answer
luckily-
your question, I got one booking before the end of April. I think it's in May, around in there, and we may turn that into a Radio Free Denton gig. But the Collective will be there, and then we've got Arts and Jazz, which is at the end of April, and then my birthday bash, which is going to be in July, and that's going to be another Tom Waits show. I'm gonna do.
Yeah,
another
he
Tom
does,
Like you do like a full-time wait set? Is that what's up?
Everybody does, including
Everybody
the
does.
opening acts.
He does a different show
Everybody-
damn near every year.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been doing a birthday bash for
I came out and did his
many
Tom
years
Waits
now.
show last year.
Yeah.
It was fun, man. But
It is a lot of
yeah,
fun.
Dad's big on theme shows. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I like to be entertained, and I like to entertain. And I've seen so many bands, and I've been to so many shows and everything like that. Is when Doggie plays, it's an event.
Right.
It
Yeah.
should be, because I used to play every weekend, and when you play every weekend in Denton, that's saying something, man.
Right.
Literally, I would get up on a
it is
Saturday
weird
and
because
book
you'd play at like Abbey Underground on Monday night, or I'm sorry, Friday night.
I'd play Abby Friday night, and I'd turn around and play Andy Saturday night.
Yeah, but you'd still pack out both rooms. Like you can't. That's something to say, because I mean, if Diesel Beast did that, I guarantee you, like one of those shows is gonna be fucking empty, buddy.
Well, you had the Abbey crowd, and you had the Andy's crowd, and so
Which is fucking
learned how to
hilarious
work
because they're
that.
down the street from each other.
Absolutely,
Exactly. You walk down the street.
That was the coolest thing about.
I don't go west
Yeah.
when I'm in Denton.
No.
Yeah. Fuck that.
Them over there, they have stars upon theirs. That is a Dr. Seuss
exactly
reference
right.
on
Nice.
Warlord Radio
There you go.
podcast.
That's
Bam.
exactly right. So basically, I don't have to play all the time.
Yeah.
I play now because I love it and because I want to.
Back in the day when I was his bass player for the Hickory Street Hellraisers,
About 10 years.
it's been about 10 years.
So, quick question: Was it always the Hickory Street Hellraisers, or was it then Bone Doggie and the Hellraisers?
Okay, check this.
It was Bone Doggie and the Hickory Street Hellraisers, but
The
Tell the story.
Hellraisers, what we were, the Hickory Street Hellraisers, was a band that I started before we joined him, and we were a fucking ska punk band.
Okay.
And like all the speed I have in heavy metal, I got from that ska band, like because I had to play faster than shit.
Right.
And then I forgot, we like backed you up at one show.
well, no. What it was is you and Jared
yeah,
and
Abby.
Squigs. Abby hadn't joined yet, This is before. This is before that.
Abby was in the ska band, though.
She was in the ska band, but before the ska band, you guys were together and you played as the Hickory Street Hellraisers.
To back you up,
to back me up is
Yeah.
my rhythm section because they were all playing drums. Carrick was playing bass, the other two were playing drums, and then you guys made the ska band.
Yes.
And it was one hell of a band.
Yeah, we were fucking good, man.
They were really good, and eventually, but at the same time, they always played backup shows for Bone Doggie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, eventually, Jared, the lead singer for the ska band, moved off to California, and so everybody in the Hellraisers just come and played, and it was Bone Doggie and the Hickory Street Hellraisers.
But I'm not kidding. The fucking gig
For about 12
schedule for
years.
this band was insane.
Yeah.
We would play 4-hour shows like 4 times a week.
Fuck hell.
There was
No, I don't. We never played 4-hour shows.
we damn sure did play 4-hour shows,
I don't
Cowboy.
remember doing no
I'll fucking
4-hour
call
shows.
people that were at
I
those shows,
do not
buddy.
remember those.
Fuck yes, we did. Because I never did that in other bands.
I must have had a great time.
You
then,
were
right?
having a blast
I guess
to the point where you played Born on the Bayou for 48 minutes.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, we could. Wow. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
He locked us into a Born on the Bayou loop so hard one time that I just stopped playing. I was like, we have to stop. We have played this shit over and over again for like 30 minutes.
Nah, we just did a drum solo.
It was fucking, yeah. I'm like, we have to stop. He's like, take it.
It was a jam band. It was a jam band.
We were a bit, but I mean,
I'm looking for the government weed spinoff.
But I mean, we had, so we do these ridiculous 4-hour shows. There were a couple of times where we played 3 shows in one day at like different fucking places.
We did a couple of those.
Yeah, so like we'd play 10 o'clock over, and it wasn't even like 3 shows at the same place where different crowds could come in. It's like we're playing 3 o'clock over here, 5 o'clock over here, and 7 o'clock over here.
Yeah.
It's like 9 o'clock. I'm so hammered I can't see my own feet.
Right. Got to move gear. Fuck.
Yeah, dude, it was, that
We
was an
recorded-
experience.
We recorded one album with that lineup.
Yeah.
The Hellraisers,
Two.
the alumni
Wait.
for the Hellraisers over the years was, I think there's about 15 people that actually went through that band. And so we got 2 albums out of it.
How many
Jason
players were
recorded
in the
both of
Hellraisers?
Usually 7, sometimes more.
them. At one time there was 9.
Yeah.
The
Because
first
we had
album, I
what?
think there were
singers.
9.
There
Do y'all
were
have a
9.
triangle player or what?
We
We
had
had
backup
shitload of
singers.
percussionists. Yeah,
So-
no.
Yeah, we did. We recorded their first album in my living room.
Yeah.
That's true.
Like,
When you
like
had-
console and desk were in the room, and they were all around me.
Yeah.
How?
and we
Circle
recorded
in
that
Circle, we
shit
did it
live without a
live.
click, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
both albums we did without a click.
Wow.
No,
Drums,
we had
bass.
Chris, dude.
Yeah, we had Chris Cornell. Fuck yeah, dude. I'm a living goddamn metronome, bro.
I will say this. I will say this. The second album, he overdubbed drums after the fact, no click track, and I was fucking so worried. But he fucking nailed
Nailed
it.
it.
Cordell
He nailed
is
that
a
shit.
fucking beast.
Shout out to Chris
played-
Cordell.
When huge shout out to Cordell when I was playing bass. Chris and I played together. The Cordells and the Colemans have been playing music literally for 25 years together.
Forever. Yeah.
And we're talking sons and cousins and nephews and all of that. Well, eventually, the Hellraisers had a run of about 12, 13 years and wanted to do something else. So took that down and basically come up with the idea of the collective. And what the idea of the collective is, a book a gig, and then I just make the phone calls and hire the guys to come and play it.
And it's like a kind of a revolving lineup. I've played with the collective a couple of times.
Yeah.
Ghost, who used to be in
Ghost
Diesel
is back
Beast.
with
he's-
us.
So when I've seen you guys at the Day of the Dead festival here in Denton,
That
It's
was
the
the-
lineup
yeah.
every time.
but that's the collective.
That's the
Bone Dog?
collective.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the collective.
I forgot you came to that, yeah.
You'll find if Gary Chase is sitting back in the back on his little hand drums, that's collective.
Which he does for 95% of the bands in this town.
Exactly.
Okay.
Jerry
Chase
Chase,
plays with everybody.
first off, this fool built his own drums. And when I say that, I don't mean he like crafted beautiful shells. I mean he like hodgepodged this fucking rack of bullshit together. He knows how to
awesome.
play all of it.
Yeah.
And then, what Gary does is like Gary goes to work and then Gary plays music like the other fucking 16 hours a day that he doesn't sleep. It's just, that's all he does.
Nice.
He plays for everyone.
Everybody.
And in turn, because he's been doing this for 5 or 6 years, Gary can jam anything.
Right.
Like we could throw him on stage with Silver Tongue Devil. He'll come up with a sick ass beat.
There you go. Sweet.
So that's what we're at with music. Is I still play it every now and then.
So who are-
I
who-
still do the open mic and
Who are the usual suspects of the collective? Like who do you have most
right now
often?
is Gary. of
Gary
course.
Chase, yeah.
Matt Hall has been playing bass.
Used to be in the Molotov
Molotov
Dogs.
Dogs.
Killer fucking bass player, this
About
guy.
Killer
7.5
fucking
foot
band.
tall.
Molotov Dog.
Yeah,
Great.
Molotov Dog was sick.
Ray Chan is singing, and actually we're working a little bit more with her and Ghost to do more vocals on that end. Ghost is actually playing keyboards.
He's not playing guitar?
We've had discuss. I'm playing guitar. I am, and I've only played.
Ghost is probably enjoying playing keyboards rather than.
He gets into it. It gives him something to really sink his teeth into. And I only play a 4-string guitar.
Yeah, tell him about your fucking guitar. I don't.
Yeah, what?
Why did you do this to this guitar?
fucking
Buy a
plays the
guitar.
Tell him
bazooki.
about my guitar.
Buy a guitar and get rid of 2 strings.
Yeah.
did that.
Ken
Max-
plays
Used to a
6
bass and a
strings.
And then
bazooki.
now tell him
I
how
don't know
you,
you do it.
He
That's
has
the Max Cavallero way.
he has this gorgeous hollow body. He took off 2
Ibanez.
strings
Yeah,
and then
Ibanez.
how's it tuned like GDAD or some shit?
GDAD. Yeah,
It's tuned just like your bazooki, right?
exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a fucking. He's just taking the top and bottom string off of it and
Well, I
he's
can
using it like a bazooki.
I can play the bazooki. I can't play guitar. I don't know how you guys do it. I swear to God.
Yeah, but I mean,
What
like
the hell?
he shreds this fucking thing.
he
Like,
does. It's
a bass
pretty
player
awesome.
before.
that's one thing. Like I can, you are a hell of a musician. I will give you that.
Thank you, my son.
You're
So
both
are you.
very entertaining.
Everybody
gentlemen.
sitting at this table is actually a pretty good jammer.
Damn straight.
So, I don't know, right?
Present company excluded.
What? No, if I want to jam songs about nuns sucking off demons, I'm going to bring out Silver Tongue Devil and the kids and show them all off.
I have seen you guys do. One of the weirdest things that I saw Silver Tongue Devil do was the acoustic set.
Acoustic Devil's the shit.
I laughed my ass off. I thought that was the most entertaining thing.
Acoustic
Next to
Devil-
Weird Al Yankovic, you were up there, dude. I mean,
I'll take that
Acoustic
compliment.
Devil was the whole reason that Biodiesel Beast exists.
which I know, which I have not yet to hear yet.
Oh, it was awesome.
we're working on
They
it.
killed it. I can't wait to see part 2.
Strange. It was so weird. I was
Yeah.
so mad at you guys. They were like, let's take all of our regular sweet ass metal songs and then like genre bend them into like surf tunes. And I was like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, there was still some heavy stuff in there.
was.
Well,
It was
that's
cool.
kind of what it turned into for that show. But like initially, it was the same idea they do, which is the same fucking set, but on acoustic instruments.
But
and it's like,
the key is they lose no intensity whatsoever.
yeah, the energy is still
Like they're still like
seriously.
headbanging right in your face,
Running
shredding that
across
shit as
stage.
fast as they can, like really just and it's all acoustic.
I think the,
Quite frankly,
awesome.
it looks like it hurts.
It probably does.
the first time I saw you guys do it, it was at Abbey Underground,
Yeah.
and I think Quaz was running sound.
Yep.
And I walked up to Quaz, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he had this look of shock on his face. And
Yeah.
I said, "What are you doing, buddy?" And he said, "Oh my God, I think I'm doing this right. I
Right.
pray to God I'm doing this right." And it sounded great, but yeah, you were rocking it on the acoustic
thank you.
thing. So
Yeah, it's
acoustic metal.
we get a lot of shocked looks when
Yeah.
we do it.
I love it.
Which is
I
fun.
absolutely love it. Because if you ever you know Alex, right? The Silver Tongue Devil's guitar player.
Oh yeah.
Bald guy looks like me.
Yeah. No, he used to come up to LSA all the time.
That's because he was
Small
chasing,
World also dated Maggie May.
Yeah, he was chasing Maggie around.
He could do worse.
Oh,
I'm kidding. I love
we
you,
all
baby.
chase, and we all love Maggie. She's
But
a piece of work.
Alex is, and we've talked about him on the show, but he's an anomaly in metal where he always is smiling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got a big shit eating grin on.
Like nobody does that. We took an entire series of pictures the other day, didn't crack one fucking smile the whole time.
Rochester don't smile. He just looks serious and
I try.
does the head
'Cause
thing.
when I
yeah.
smile, I don't look. It doesn't look professional.
Although
Doesn't look good.
I want to give you a shout out, dude. Is you play rhythm guitar?
I do.
Nobody plays
Allegedly.
rhythm guitar like that. Is just, you play a
Well, thank you.
wonderful rhythm guitar, and you just don't play rhythm guitar. It's a freaking art form. you
Yeah,
know?
man.
It's
and
hard
he's
to do.
tight
you know?
as shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's,
Yeah, so
he's
you-
unreal.
Thank you.
Shout out to you, dude. You do a good job on rhythm
Shout out
guitar.
to Jathan.
Yeah.
Shout out to you too, Ken. You're great. You're fucking awesome, buddy.
Ken, the thing I love about Ken is when you started doing open mic, and you had the greatest song list. He plays Rush.
Yeah, you do.
He'll
Yeah,
stand
you
up
do.
there with an acoustic guitar. Ken's balls are this.
They're so big. And what's great, like,
play it well.
what I love about you though is like if you forget the words, that does not stop you at
Oh,
all.
yeah,
You
no.
will just
No,
keep
no,
going.
no.
You'll even tell I just forgot the words, but I'm gonna play this. It's
Yeah.
so fucking great. You're so very entertaining.
Well, I made a living out of
I
forgetting
practiced a
names.
lot at forgetting words, so I just
It's a finely honed skill.
it is.
I mean,
it is.
y'all talked about stand up. It's just the same thing. Like,
Oh,
getting
yeah.
up- like I've been playing music for almost 25 years, and I have never once been on stage by myself.
I've never seen you on
Really?
stage by
Never
yourself.
once. Like I will get up there and I'll sing backup with somebody. I'll play guitar for somebody, but I have
my God.
never. The two Diesel B shows that we had no singer and I was singing.
Yeah.
The first 2 shows I have ever been a front man for a band and sang out in front ever.
Yeah.
That's scary as hell.
You
isn't
did
It
great.
is scary as shit.
Yeah, you did great, brother.
Well, thank you.
It was awesome.
But it's so fucking hard. So like, and just, I can only imagine like getting up there and forgetting the words. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, it's pretty awesome to watch.
But
I'm just like,
I've
he's-
literally heard
Woo!
Ken just like make up words that kind of sound like the melody. It's it's so great
It doesn't
though.
matter.
Yeah, but
Doesn't
the
matter.
other
You
thing
do
I
it with
like
such
pretty-
conviction though. You're like, no, this is happening, and you're gonna fucking enjoy it.
Exactly. But you just got to go with it. I mean, you know, okay, I mess it up, so no problem. You just go with it. And it's
Absolutely.
like when you're doing stand-up comedy, your mind is running 3 times faster than what you're talking.
Oh yeah.
You know, because you have to think about what you're saying, what the joke is,
The setup.
how the audience is reacting, and say, oh, no, I have to cut out that joke. That's not going to work. I got to put this one in place. So, so you know, so
It's
you
a
get
lot
that.
of. It's really
Yeah.
heavy on your toes.
And
for
then,
sure.
so basically, I just do the same thing with the, with the guitar.
I love that you have scatterbrained yourself into infamy. I guess is what I'm saying here.
I like that.
Beautiful.
I like that.
Well, guys, we have to wrap it up here pretty soon. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Where can we find you guys online?
We are on iTunes. We go through Libsyn, so we're also
Scoot up
on-
to that mic.
You can basically, if you have like a podcast app,
Yeah, it's
Just
like Google Play.
Any podcast app. We also have a web page that we're at still sort of under construction.
Okay, does it have games?
No.
Can you put a sign on it that says "Coming Soon" games?
sure.
Sweet.
Well,
Just get some sweet flash games.
Sure,
on the
we could say
website.
that. No, I don't know if any games will be coming soon, but yeah, sure, why not?
And
You can do anything you want on a web page, right?
we're all FaceBase. We're on Facebook, and soon to have a YouTube page.
And
we,
it's-
and
so
we
is-
just started tweeting.
Oh,
we started
yeah.
Twitter.
Do we have a Twitter page?
We do.
I have never fucking used it once.
We got
I tweet,
Ray
I
Chan
tweet
to-
on it every time that we. release an
I
episode.
always tag the Twitter page.
I have
I don't hashtag anything on Twitter.
We
Like
don't know how.
I literally just put like episode such and such out now. Check, like, subscribe to the page, and that's really all we tweet is that.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so our online presence is fucking phenomenal. But anyway, so
well, what we did is we took our millennial and gave her the social media shit.
that was smart. Play to your
And
strengths.
then we took our computer nerd over here and we gave him the website.
Well, it's still in the construction.
So what's up with the games, Ken?
Right?
I don't
We've
know.
left all those jobs. To
I haven't
me.
learned how to add those to a web page yet.
I want Frogger.
So iTunes, Google Play, Radio Free Denton. Is it hashtag Radio Free Denton or just Radio Free Denton?
It's just Radio Free Denton.
Okay, just all your logos.
RadioFreeDenton.com. Yeah.
Radio Free Denton.
All one word.
RadioFreeDenton.com. So check them out. I'm on the show. I'm fucking great. And I'm also work with an ensemble of very talented people who you're a joy to work with, you guys. You know, I enjoy doing voiceover anyway, but I have a fucking blast reading with you
It
guys.
is fun. It is fun.
It's a lot
He
of fun.
doesn't talk that well when you're not in the room, Doggy. Just so you know.
No, hell, I talk mad shit. I'll talk mad shit about, all right, you guys. I got to hear Bone Doggy.
Dude.
I've seen Brett Coleman come down the stairs in his underwear at 5 a.m.
I was going to say, I changed his diapers. Tell me anything. that
I'm
I
going to
don't
have
know
to
about
change
this guy.
yours eventually.
Right? Yeah. Payback's a bitch.
Actually, we're working on that. Yeah.
Next time on Family Feud.
So join us next for the next Warlord Radio podcast where I change my dad's diaper.
So before we cut out real quick, I just had a quick question to ask you because we've been talking conspiracy theories like before and in between and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we've got this whole like separate dialogue going on
That you guys have not listened to yet.
between what's going on the actual show. So I thought I'd at least like introduce it into us. We've been bullshitting back and forth about the JFK assassination and having been down. Have you been down to Dealey Plaza?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, several times.
Actually got married 3 blocks away from there.
Oh, yeah?
And we drove through.
Nice.
Yeah, but yeah, I've been through there several
The
times.
union
I have
that
not been to
spawned
the-
me.
The book.
Right.
Started
With the assassination of a U.S. icon.
That's bullshit. You were Scarborough Fair on a drunken weekend.
There you go.
Fuck yeah, that informs so much.
Right?
Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, man. Those who come from the sea shall return to the sea.
So because we're already probably on some kind of government watch list anyway,
That's awesome.
let's get to the brass tacks. Like, what do you think happened?
Yeah, this is a hot take, Bone Doggie's take on the Kennedy assassination. Try to not rabbit hole as much as you can.
Coming at you just 60-some years after the actual event.
I think that it was a conspiracy. I know that there was a meeting the day before the assassination at Clint Murchison's house that included just about everybody, the mob, the government. The two people that benefited most from the assassination may not have been in on the actual planning, but they benefited most was J. Edgar Hoover and LBJ. LBJ was fixing to be indicted. J. Edgar Hoover was fixing to be fired.
What? Yeah, the U.S. government's corrupt?
No, I know, right? And,
Hot take.
Not to mention the fact that the Kennedy was fixing to pull out of Vietnam. That made a lot of people a lot of money, and it killed 58,000 Americans. So
A lot of Vietnamese,
basically,
too.
long and story of it was a conspiracy, and I think everybody that Kennedy managed to tick off, and that includes Bobby, they had somebody in on it, but I think the government covered it up. And I still think
but you
it
don't
was
necessarily think the government was behind the assassination.
I think
More so
that it was
involved.
elements of. Elements of the. It wasn't the actual government. It was elements of. It's just like this Trump crap that's going on now. It's elements of the government.
Right.
So, but there's a lot of people that benefited, and there was a lot of people that Kennedy had literally ticked off, including the mob. I mean, they lost a lot of money in Cuba.
Yep. They were going to
it
set
was-
it up
it
to be
was-
this giant
yeah, it was
mecca
huge.
of fucking organized crime and racketeering, and then
They lost a lot.
lost all of it when the revolution happened and chased the fucking mafia out of the country before they overthrew their own government. Cubans don't fuck with Cubans,
Yeah.
man.
So like I said, it was a conspiracy. It was a coup. It was a literal hardcore coup, and a lot of people benefited from it, and it literally changed the course of history.
I am
if he had lived, a lot of things would have been different.
Yeah.
So
They did a Red Dwarf episode about that.
I
Do you
know,
remember?
that's creepy.
Isn't that fucking weird? Do you
Because
remember?
JFK shot himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
I never saw
Oh,
that.
then
There's,
I will.
for those of you that don't know what Red Dwarf is, it's like this British space comedy. But they had this really poignant episode where they ended up with a time machine and they saved JFK and the whole fucking world went to shit. So they had to go get JFK to assassinate himself. It was fucked. It was just
it was
total
pretty
mind
bad.
bender.
And
That's
just,
a weird
just
show,
to,
too.
Just to finish it out, I think there were at least 4 sniper nests. I think somebody was on the grassy knoll, but there were also the Dowtech building and a couple other buildings across the street. So there were snipers literally all over the kill zone.
Right.
At least 4 or 5.
The crossfire theory, like
There's a crossfire
put
theory.
out by Jim Mars.
Absolutely. And so there were at least 12, 15 shots. They killed the big one, the Zapruder film. That's another thing. Zapruder film
Right.
was tampered with. So, because it's evident they had Hollywood guys look at that film and say, wow, man, somebody got a hold of this thing and just raked it over the coals. There's missing files or missing frames, and somebody did a really bad job of painting the back of his head in, stuff like that. So, this is a rabbit hole,
Right.
But
Well, that's why I asked.
my final word on it, though, is I'm not convinced that Lee Harvey Oswald was actually even in the building at the time. I think
Interesting.
I am very interested, and I'm kind of looking into the fact that there may have been more than one.
I was going to ask, do you think, with the whole story about him shooting Officer Tippett,
No.
and, is
No, he
the
was-
idea of him being on the bus trying to get through traffic and then having to get off the bus and run across traffic and
Exactly,
then being
exactly.
at different places, like being in the area where he was supposedly shot Tippett, even though nobody saw
I always
him
love
shoot
that,
Tippett,
too,
The guy,
and then going to the Texas theater.
the guy that they arrested in the theater was
Right.
actually in the theater when Tippett was killed.
Right.
They always make him out to be this like fucking John Wick level master assassin, and then you hear about like kind of his backstory, and I think there's one interview with him.
I think he was CIA.
I think he was a moron.
No,
I think he was a scapegoat or something, man.
He was definitely.
Well, I mean, he said he was right before he died.
Yeah, that's true.
But this is a guy that went into the Marines at 17, and by the time he was 19, he was taking he was taking Russian. He was fluent in Russian, and they sent him over there.
That's a hell of a skill.
I think he was working for the CIA. A lot of people believe that.
Yeah.
So he wasn't an idiot, but the thing is, he was set up because, like I say, there was what's the theory? There was a Lee Oswald, and then there was a Harvey Oswald.
Yeah, I've heard that theory.
Yeah, that's the idea. So,
I still am going with my original opinion that it was a predator that lured him into a warehouse and said, "You want some candy?" And just fucking blew him up with a laser.
On the Zapruder film, you actually see 3 dots.
3 dots, yeah.
If you zoom in, you can see the little shimmer like in the background.
You are one ugly motherfucker. Yeah,
nice.
That's
well, that'll wrap up this episode. Awesome. But thank you all so much for coming out, guys. It was great to see you. We greatly appreciate it. I can't wait to check out your show. And
I'm going to say this about Craig, and because everybody on every show is like, "Oh yeah, we'll check out your stuff." Craig literally checks out fucking everybody's stuff.
Good job. Good job.
We need the listeners to tell people about it.
Yeah.
Well, we just did.
Really, check out Radio Free Denton. We're trying to get listenership. It's a fun show. It is relatively family friendly.
Yeah, it gets like a little edgy every now and then,
but edgy, but
it's not Warlord Radio.
We skirt the edge. Yeah.
Well,
compared to what?
To us, it's funnier to actually bleep out the profanity, but leave just the first part of the syllable.
Yeah,
and the
you'll get a
last part.
Because then it happens in your mind, and it's much more
exactly. And there's one little bit that where Rachel cusses out Ken, and I just started putting bleeps in. Bleep 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 bleep. You bleep bleep bleep. I'm going to bleep 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 out of every orifice you have. Right. And then you hear Maggie say, "Wow, do you kiss your mama with that mouth?" And it's like, yes,
I think I have
it worked perfect.
Only F-bomb on that show, right?
No, that got dashed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Damn it. I was a demon, and I told somebody to shut the
Although
fucking window.
Emma Ricks got a shit past me.
Good.
Yeah, she
Good.
Did. She got the word.
You deserve
shit.
that, right? For cutting my sweet motherfucker voiceover.
We make up for it on this show.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely.
That's true.
Well, thank you, Bone Doggie and Ken, so much for coming out. Remember, everybody, Radio Free Denton. They're on several platforms: Spotify, Google Play, and Facebook. And just check all the shit.
Yeah, fucking support.
And give us some feedback. The email addresses are live and they're real.
You are just inviting so much pain today.
What are the email again?
You're not aware of our demographic, sir.
But let's get those emails one more time, Ken.
Well, there's two. There's one at radiofreedenton@gmail.com, and the other one is info@radiofreedenton.com. We'll have more of the radiofreedenton.com emails.
You heard them, guys.
Different stuff.
Send us a mail and go in.
I want you to flood those email accounts with dick pic, please.
Yeah. I'm sending some inappropriate questions.
Yeah.
It's happening.
I can no longer open up this email at work, can I?
Yeah.
And
Next time you're on the show, you'll have a different email.
Give us the 5-star rating and all of that so that we can keep doing this stuff for free.
Yeah, give them a good Yelp review.
Yeah.
Support entertaining art and people that are behind it is the takeaway.
There you go.
All right. Thank you so much for listening. Next time, we don't preview shit. What am I doing? Goodbye.
Yeah. Fuck off.
How did a dish like you end up on his table?
Let's just say he was rather brilliant and very, very rich.
Okay, fine. He was rather brilliant and very, very rich. Point taken. Let's get to the entree, shall we?
During the last few months, my husband had been working hard on some very, shall we say, delicate atomic research for the government.
Sure. Delicate atomic research for the government.
Are we going to do that every time, Joe? Because if we do, I'll have to get another pad.
I think we're done with that one. I think everybody gets it by now. If we keep that up, we'll be here till next Thursday.
You are perceptive, Mr. Pistachio. Well, to make a long story short...
Too late.
It was last Tuesday night at our rather palatial and frankly over-the-top home in the Hamptons. I was upstairs counting my jewelry while my husband, as usual, was in the laboratory in the west wing of the house. I believe he was working on one of his formulas. All in all, a typical evening until I heard a bang.
Bang? What kind of bang?
I don't know. It was a bang.
Was it a big bang?
Well, a biggish bang.
Like a bada bing bang?
Bigger than a bada bing bang.
How about a boom bang?
No, not so much a boom, just a bang.
So, a bang bigger than about a bing bang, but not as big as about a boom bang. Interesting. You getting all this, doll?
Got it, Joe. Bigger than a bada bing bang, but not as big as a bada boom bang.
That's important. So I suspect you went down to see what all the hubbub was about.
Naturally, I was alarmed. My husband is no stranger to causing loud noises, but this one was different somehow. I rushed down the stairs to see what was the matter, and that's when I discovered my husband had vanished.
Varnished?
Vanished.
Sorry. Got it.
I hate to say it, doll, but you don't suppose one of his formulas went sideways, do you?
No, Mr. Pistachio. Aside from being rather brilliant and very, very rich, my husband is also very careful. I say vanished, and I mean vanished.
Right.
Along with the entire west wing of the house.